Hey, how's it going? That Logic Pro guy here. Today we're going to be talking about a D.A.W. that I feel is truly the best for any new music producer. I love Logic Pro, that's my D.A.W. of choice, but this D.A.W. finds that perfect balance of musical creativity and instant accessibility. Most D.A.W.s are way too hard or they're just extremely simple. This one is a diamond in the rough. It's incredible. It's called Soundation. Let's check it out.
Okay, so here we are, Soundation. Make sure you log on. Here's a session that I created in the past, and we're gonna go ahead and create a new project. The layout, very simple. You can see the virtual keyboard here, and that can be accessed by hitting the keyboard modifier Command and then K. So you can turn that on like so. We're gonna divert our attention to the right side of the screen where we have loops and samples, instrument presets, beats, all kinds of stuff. And we're just going to start at the very top. We're first going to select pre-recorded material called loops and samples to try and fill out our song. So let's see if we can find something in the world of drums or percussion. Here we go. So right now I'm just using the down arrow key to audition. Okay, let's start with a simple hi-hat. We'll keep this very simple. So you can drag that in like so. That's going to create just a simple hi-hat at the beginning of bar 1. And so if I hit spacebar, we should hear it. Okay, good. The sound is controlled by the sound output settings on your Mac. In this case, I am playing through an interface, but you can also just play this through your Mac speakers as well. And so if you want to do the work of selecting the region, hitting Command C, moving the playhead to bar 2, Command V, you can do it that way. And that's not a bad way to work, but there's different ways to work as well. So for example, if I just Command Z all of that, and I take the same sound, the hi-hat, and I drag it in to create a sample. See, that's a little bit different because now I'm not just using the pre-existing audio and, dragging it and dropping it along the timeline. I'm actually just playing it in by means of the keyboard. So we're going to start recording. I'm going to hit Command K to bring back the virtual keyboard, and they can either click on the icon itself or just hit the key R, and that should help you record. Here we go. So now we've used audio to create a sampler. If I double click this region, I can hit Command A to select all of these, what they call MIDI events, and I can line them up to the grid. And so if I pick either a quarter note or an eighth note, this should work out quite well. Let's take a listen. So even though that was a mistake, I kind of liked it. It's one of the things I think new people don't really understand is that you can just have a lot of fun. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think we're so caught up with trying to be perfect that we forget about just synchronicities or mistakes that sound really awesome. So let's take a listen to this. I'm going to move the cycle region between bar 2 and bar 4 so that when I play this, it just cycles over and over again. Okay, good. So that sounds pretty good. It looks like I went a little bit over here. Let's put that back. All right. So then naturally you start to record all the other pieces, and you don't have to start with the drums. You could start with chords or a melody, but in this case, we're just going to kind of build this up from the ground up. So let's see if we could find a beat of sorts. Go to the beats category, and this should have some pretty good stuff here. So let's take a listen. Okay, I like this a lot. Let's drag this in. This is now going to use another format. You can see that it looks a little bit different. So before we were recording MIDI by means of the keyboard. Before that, we were dragging in pre-existing audio. And so now we're going to go ahead and sequence this in such a way where we basically are drawing the data, right? I'm not playing anything in. So I know I'm not going to want any of the chords or anything like that. Let me go ahead and just mute some of these vocal chops. I just want to keep the main rhythm intact. Let's take a listen. Let's disable the cycle region. And then now when I hover over the top portion of the hi-hat that I played earlier, I can go ahead and just loop this all the way out. And instead of having to play all that over again or copy and paste everything, I'm just able to loop it once quickly and then just move on. So then now we have a beat, we have a complementary hi-hat, and of course we can play with the volume here. We can pan this over to the left or to the right, and this means that you're going to hear respectively on one channel or speaker. So if you're wearing headphones, you'll hear it a little bit more on the right, a little bit more on the left. So this is good. Let's go back into the library. I believe the key command is Command L for that. Let's go ahead and find Midi Melodies and Chords. And the reason I really like this area here is because they already have ideas that we can manipulate, play with, that are really going to help us be creative as possible. So let's go ahead and listen to some of these here. Okay, so I like that. It's an acoustic guitar right now, but we're going to change that to a synthesizer. So let's drag that in. Now, make sure this is always lined up perfectly. You want to make sure that these regions always line up and play nice. Otherwise, things just get really messy really quickly. And so let's press play. Okay, so you can see that it went from this acoustic guitar sample sound, but now we need to change the actual preset or patch. So I'm going to go into Edit Simple Synth, and you can see that we have a preset menu that we can play with. Let's listen to a couple of these. Okay, that sounds actually pretty good. I wasn't expecting that, but it works. Now we have to find some chords to accompany this basic melody. So we're going to go down here to Redemption Pad, and let's drag that in. So I liked it a lot, but again, the sound is not that great. So this time, instead of just choosing a preset, we're going to kind of design the sound just a little bit. Let's see what we can come up with here. I'm going to solo the track so we can really pay attention to it. The amp envelope is when the synthesizer is going to play, and we're going to kind of address how it should play. So I'm going to say, hey, wait, let's say 400 milliseconds before you actually start to play. And so that refers to the attack time. Let's take a listen. So this pattern sounds great, but I kind of want to customize it a little bit. So rather than just sticking to this sound, we're going to look for an instrument preset. So this is a sound that has already been kind of set up in some way that we can use for our song. So let's go ahead and try and find a good fit here. So we're listening for the sound itself, not the actual part. Here we go. So that could work, right? We can take this preset, we can drag it into track number 3, and now it'll sound like this. That sounds fairly good. Let's go ahead and look at what they did. So they're using a synthesizer called Sam for the acoustic guitar sound, but again, we could choose something else. Let's try out the organ here. Let's see what's up. So you can see that without a lot of knowledge or anything like that, I'm just up and running. I don't know much about this D.A.W. I've tried it out a couple of times. I've showed it to a lot of beginners, and I just think it's just a really good workflow. Let's try out the brass ensemble. Okay, I really like the organ just because we're able to hear it in a crystal clear way. So let's go with that. The other organ was better. Okay, now we can keep the organ as such, or we can apply more effects in order to manipulate the sound or change the overall characteristic. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to add just a funny effect called a fakie, and basically what it does is it allows the sound to pump up and down, so to be able to be heard and then not heard. I'll solo it so you can really hear it. Check it out. Okay, so now in context, sounds like this. So you can see how as I'm working, I'm making micro adjustments to the level, to the parameters of the synthesizer. Hold on. So that's what you're going to want to do, is make a lot of small changes. Stand by. Okay, so now we've got a pretty decent sounding musical bed. I think obviously it could be a little bit fancier. Maybe with the organ, we can add a little bit more reverb. And so we'll add more of the wet reverb sound and less of the dry original sound. No question, the drums can sound much more powerful. And so for that, we're going to click on track number 1 and start adding an effect. This workflow is very similar to Ableton's workflow. That's another D.A.W. in the marketplace. And so if you like the feel, that you might want to check that D.A.W. out. It might be a good fit for you. And so one of the things you can do to make a drum sound just much more powerful or consistent is either add a compressor or distortion. So we're going to try and go with the distortion, and let's see what it sounds like. Yeah, so you can hear the thickness right here as before. Can't really compare it, right? So here we go. Sounds a lot better. You can play with some of the different options they have here as far as distorting the drums, but this sounds good to me. Let's move back into the library. So thus far we've used pre-existing loops and samples. Check. We've used instrument presets to change the sound of a MIDI performance. We've used beats, and we've played with some of the steps in order to kind of, modify to work for our song. Even though we haven't changed the song that much, it's starting to become your own. We've used MIDI melodies and chords to start to identify a piece of music that makes you feel something. And then now you kind of have some additional options here. If you look at some of the recommended sounds, they've got a bunch of great stuff here. And then again, if you choose to subscribe, they have a lot more options. So this menu here, Command L, is very similar to the menu you find here in the middle of the screen. So if I hover over, you're going to see that this allows you to build a track with loops and samples, similar to the library, same thing. Here you can record yourself if you wanted to, and there's a lot of implications there. And here we have something new. We can generate a sample by means of AI. So let's say you want, I don't know, the sound of crows or the sound of a hi-hat similar to your favorite artist. You can do that here. Record an instrument, software instrument. Here we have the step sequencer, as you can see on the screen. We can import audio into Soundation. And then probably my favorite feature about this D.A.W., the ability to collaborate with a friend. So you can be at your place, they can be at their place. They're working on drums and you're putting together a melody or an 808 or what have you. And it's just a phenomenal way of being able to connect without necessarily having a bunch of fancy gear or, paying a bunch of money to have FL Studio or Logic Pro, Pro Tools, whatever. So this is basically the layout. And in just a couple of minutes, we were able to come up with something that sounds pretty decent. Okay, I want to change the fill here at the very end. Let's see what that sounds like. So some closing comments about working in music production, working with the D.A.W. The biggest question I get, as I've consulted hundreds if not thousands of adults, kids, old folks, doctors, people in college, all sorts of people, is how do you know what you like? And so I want you to do me a quick favor. I want you to think about your favorite food, whatever it is. I want you to picture it in your mind. You're probably salivating right now. And I want you to think, how do I know I like it? And the answer is quite simple. I like it because I like it. And so when you hear an idea back and you're listening to some of your productions, you play it back for yourself in its totality from beginning to end. And then you find out, is this something that I enjoy? And if it's not, then tailor it to your taste. For example, if I thought this was too, let's say, slow, I would go back into the track and I would play with the tempo and I would change it. You could see it's here. And I don't really have a great kind of reference for time. I just know what I like when I hear it. But we had it at 125 before. Let's go ahead and set it up to 155. Let's see what it sounds like. Here we go. Yeah, not bad. And I think that's it, my good friends. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I just think this is an incredible D.A.W. The fact that it's free like this, it really is truly special. So let me know your thoughts on Soundation. Maybe there's another D.A.W. out there that's a little bit better than this. I doubt it though, because everything I've seen is either too simple or too difficult. And this hits just that middle spot, that sweet spot between difficult and yet creative and accessible. And that's what I'm all about. And that's what this channel is all about. So if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like the content here. I'm always trying to provide as much of a value add to you as possible. So thank you guys so much. I'm having such a blast doing this. We are in my creative station, and I do have another channel where I work predominantly in the main music studio. So this is That Logic Pro guy signing out. Thank you guys so much. I want you to have a great evening, and I will see you guys again. Take care.